All right. Good evening and welcome to the October 25th, 2021 City Council meeting for the City of Lamar. We do have a very full agenda tonight, so I won't speak too long. We'll get right into it. To start off, we usually start off with our invocation. We have Ian Blacker here tonight. Ian, please lead us in the invocation.
Father God, we thank you for our city council. We thank you for all our heads of department. We thank you so much for all those who work for the city tirelessly, going through working in the streets when storms hit and rains pour and lines come down and things get clogged and the daily rush of life. And seldom ever do they get thanked for what they do and for putting their lives on the line in many situations, not just our law enforcement and EMT and fire crews, but the guys who take care of city, because there's some drivers around who aren't very good at observing workers doing their stuff. Lord, there are many decisions to be made, and there is a full agenda tonight. And we need your wisdom. We need your insight to give to council and all those who are here the wisdom needed to make decisions that bear fruition in the community, to make Lamar a stronger place, a more attractive place for new businesses to move, to encourage and enable existing businesses to expand, to grow, to make Lamar in many ways a much better environment to live in, whether it be new housing coming in, improving existing housing, infrastructure, whatever it happens to be. So be with all those who are here tonight, give them wisdom, and where there's disagreement, to disagree with grace and with peaceability towards those around who may have a differing opinion for the best of our community. So take care of them all tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Oscar, could you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the time is now 7:02 p.m. I will call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Joe Gonzalez.
Here online.
Rafael Rodriguez.
Here.
Jerry Jenkins.
Here.
Kurt Crespin.
Here.
Oscar Riley.
Here.
Manuel Temez.
Here.
Anne Marie Crampton.
Here.
Kristen McCray.
Here.
Lance Clark.
Here. Okay, we've all received the consent agenda to review. I did look through. I didn't see anything that needed to be separated out. Did anybody else see anything?
I move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Are there any final questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Unanimous in favor of.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is two ordinances that we had read on the first reading last meeting and approved. Now we have the second reading that we would separate out. So we do have the ordinance providing for the appropriation of revenue and expenditures and adopting the budget for the city of Lamar for item number 4. And then item number 5 is the ordinance of the city of Lamar to levy and collect taxes for the fiscal year beginning January 1st. Can we put them on the same together? Okay, so if you would do a motion, we can put them together into one and vote on them at the same time.
I make a motion to accept ordinance number 1250 and 1251.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve ordinances number 1250 and 1251. Any final questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Unanimous in favor of.
All right. Now we come to the public comment area. During this portion of the meeting, anyone may speak on any subject that does not appear on the agenda. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each, and it is at the discretion of the council. Do we have anybody here tonight that would like to speak to the council? Okay, doesn't look like it tonight in the audience, but if you have, or did you want to speak?
Well, I was waiting for Roger to stand on the agenda.
He's on the agenda, so you can have a chance on the agenda. So unless you wanted to talk beforehand, you're welcome to do either. You're welcome to.
Okay, my name is Doug Thrall. I'm owned by the Cow Palace. I'm here for comments on the pot initiative. A couple of weeks ago, we had a presentation here by a out of the area paid lobbyist. I find it interesting that out of town people pay to try to change our way of life here. Nice article in the Lamar Ledger talking about all the good qualities of the pot, written by the same lobbyist, I might add. I thought that was interesting. It seemed to me the only redeeming quality of this pot issue was money, because it talked about how poor Lamar was. When I was young, chasing women in college, I learned that if a woman only had one redeeming quality, probably I let that horse out of the corral. So Lamar is, well, let me give you some statistics real quick. Give me a 1 minute heads up before I get going out of here. If you drew a line from Colorado Springs to Kansas, Colorado Springs straight south until you ran out of the state of Colorado, top 10 safest cities to live in that, well, in the whole state, but in that corner, Lamar is number 4 of all the cities in that big block. If you go to the top 10 worst cities in that same big block, Atlanta, Colorado Springs, Trinidad, and Pueblo are in that. Lamar's not in that. Those cities are the worst place to live in the state of Colorado. We're in a unique position right now to brag to the world that we have a lifestyle here that is untarnished by drug sales, pot houses. And we should be bragging about that. Okay. We can start in La Junta. They're 5th or 6th on the worst cities to live in, and we want to Pueblo. When Las Vegas put pot on the ballot, there were 2 companies that went to city council and said, if you pass this, we're moving. And Las Vegas, being the sin city of America that collects sin taxes, said, we don't care. Both of those companies moved to Salt Lake and took their families with them. Our lobbyists didn't tell you that. 1 minute.
Yeah.
Also, what you didn't hear from the lobbyists was that there is a Texas University football program that will not recruit from the state of Colorado because of pot. 1 in 3 high school kids in Colorado have access to pot. I don't think we need that issue here. We have a situation that right now is untarnished. Let's go after the businesses that want our lifestyle. Let's not let the outsiders bring their lifestyle into our area. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, is there anyone else who would like to speak to the council on an item that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. So now we have reports and correspondence. First item would be the city treasurer's report. Kristen?
Hi, thank you. I brought before you this evening the annual write-offs that we do every year. They were approved by the Light and Power Board at their last meeting, which would have been the Tuesday after our last meeting. So these are the write-offs that we're going to do this year, and it's just an informational thing for council to know that that we have this process in place. So we're writing off all of 19 and part of 20. And it gives the amounts for 2000. We're writing off this year, the column in the 2020 column. So we're writing off for the water and sewer fund, $11,717.22. Which is 0.36% of the total billed for that year. Sanitation, we're writing off $5,667.59. which is 0.41% of the total revenue brought in from sanitation. And the total write-offs, including electric, are $52,715.57.
Anybody have any questions on that for the annual write-offs?
I do. How successful is your collections afterwards? Because I know you write them off and then you send them off to collections, and then you know.
I don't know. It's not very. Of course, we go through the processes. They go to the collections. We have ways of monitoring that, preventing people from getting accounts if they have that situation without collecting those. So that is probably our most successful way of doing that. They can't get utilities in their name or be on the account unless we collect those written off accounts. So I think that's probably our most successful way of gaining those back. So
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any questions for that? And then I also noticed you have the third quarter budget.
The third quarter financials for 2021. I don't know how much you want me to go through those. Those did come in your packets.
If you just want to describe what it is and any highlights.
Right. This is just the financials for all funds through September 30th of 21. It shows your revenues and in your expenditures and the percent we've spent as of the budgeted amounts for the year. So, and I sure would entertain any questions. Being the length of the meeting and the bulk that we have, I didn't want to read every line. So my door is always open. I'm always available by phone if you have any questions.
And of course, the airport fund looks very high because we're still trying to balance out the account between the revenue and the expenditures.
Brand new,
So
yeah. So we're working.
we'll have some
work in progress.
Yes. Okay. Any questions for Kristen?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kristen.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the city clerk's report.
And I have no report.
Okay. Next item would be the city administrator report. Of course, Anne Marie and myself have been being the interim city administrator. So Anne Marie, do you have anything that you'd like to?
I'll defer to you.
Okay, thank you. So we do have a couple of items on the city administrator report. First off, I want to make sure that everybody is aware. Wednesday night, we will be having our city council social, and we are having that at La Lupita's. For many years, we've always done a city council breakfast, but we didn't have a huge turnout. So we've been trying to do different things over this last summer, this last year. We've done a council social at the park. We've done a council social at the opening at McDonald's last month. So this month we're doing a council social at La Lupita's at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, October the 27th. So if you'd like to join us, if you have any questions, concerns, if you just want to meet your council members, this is a perfect time to get in, give your ideas, give your suggestions, discuss any problems you may be having, and it does give you a chance to do that. The next item is the Moonlight Madness, which is Thursday, October the 28th, between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. And then the Prowess County Youth Council is sponsoring a ribbon cutting ceremony for their Little Free Library project on Friday, October 29th at 1 p.m. in the Pocket Park. The Little Free Library is a project they've been doing over the last year, if I remember right. And they have a few different items around, or is it stands? Libraries. Throughout the community. You'll see those in the park in different areas. So with this ribbon cutting of the new one in the Pocket Park, it'll give you an opportunity to learn what the Little Free Library is all about. So you're welcome to join us if you have the time. Next item is the library trunk or treat, which is Friday, October the 29th from 5 to 7 p.m. And then we have Lamar Elks Lodge trunk or treat, which is Friday, October the 29th, 2021, between 6:30 and 7:30. And then Halloween, of course, is Sunday, October the 31st. So for the 29th, you have quite a few different options, and the 28th to take your kids trick-or-treating. Election day is Tuesday, November the 2nd. So if you do have your ballots, You can turn them in at the county or you can mail them, but please try to get them in by November the 2nd. And last but not least is daylight savings time ends on Sunday, November the 7th. So remember to, I guess that would be fall back.
Yeah.
So the clocks will go back. Okay. Any reports or correspondence from the council? Any liaison reports?
Yep. Golf. Okay.
Oscar?
We met October 12th at a DECA tournament, at the two-shot tournament to make good money in September. There'll be a 10% late fee on golf shed rent. There was no out-of-town ads for the two-shot this year, so the play was down a little bit. They top dressed 2 tee boxes, they trimmed some trees, repaired a range mower. Would like the city to put in a gate for access to the wells, separate from what they use. High school and college tournaments not fixing their divots, little stuff, but big for the golf course. And members driving where they shouldn't with their golf carts, I guess. And dogs need to be on a leash if they're not in the cart. And then I got a letter here from the golf board membership or board. This to Pat Mason, the Lamar City Street Department. We would like to thank Pat and his crew for the repairs they did on our course earlier this month. We appreciate their help and willingness to assist us with tasks that we are not able to complete. Thanks again, Spreading Antlers Golf Club. Jack Van Hook, Grounds Committee Chairman. So kudos to Pat and his crew.
Thanks, Pat. Yeah, thanks, Pat.
And then we got the airport. The taxiway was supposed to start pouring concrete today on the new taxiway. The master plan is almost done with Javiation. They got a bid for self-service from Basso for the self-service for $53,727.78. They got one from Eaton for Basso. What did you write a number down?
I did not.
Okay, Basso was 53,000. Eaton is 73,000, but Basso doesn't include electrical, concrete, a lot of stuff, so they're about the same. And we'll have to check to see if the fuel area is up to code. 9,500 gallons of jet fuel. Half gas is averaging 110 gallons a day. They gave away Lamar Flying Service hats they had down there. The people going to Reno and Oshkosh. And people coming back from Oshkosh stopped here. People going to Reno stopped here. So the hats turned out to be a good deal. November 2nd through the 18th, the Marines will be here doing maneuvers. Basically just using the airport to keep their aircraft. They're going to have Ospreys and Huey helicopters. They're planning using about 8,000 gallons of fuel per day. They're here for winter training out of Florida. And Savvy Aviation wants to bring planes in that's in the works, maybe repair planes and get pre-bid appraisals on them. And they did 7 hot fuels. That's fueling hot helicopter, medical helicopter while it's running. Most airports don't do that, and they really appreciate it because it takes them about 20 minutes to shut down and restart, and you got your patient on board. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Oscar. Do we have any other liaison reports? I had a couple of items that I wanted to share with you. I did get a letter, or the council did receive a letter from Larry Sandoval, who was basically discussing how his family has been living close to 100 years on the same property there near Commercial Street, which is now Sandoval Lane. He was thanking the council for considering this and making the name change on the street. And I just wanted to share that we did get a letter for that of appreciation. Additionally, we did receive a certificate of recognition to the city of Lamar, whose contributions to the 20th anniversary event of 9/11 honor those who have served and responded during the tri-state. So Doug Harbour did pass this along for the city to have. I wanted to make sure we pointed that out. That was very appreciated. Over the last couple of weeks, I've had the opportunity to do a couple of visits. One of them was to Da Vinci Physical Therapy. It was very interesting to see. It's a new business here in Lamar. I had the opportunity to meet with him and get an idea of what he has to offer. So it's always great to welcome new businesses into our community. Sometimes we miss them when they first open up, but we try to catch them as they go. So I wanted to welcome them to Lamar and point out that we did have a great time. Martha and I went and met with him, and they give us the tour. And then last but not least is last Friday, I had the opportunity to go to Lamar Hope Center. The kids invited me for a lunch. We sat down and they gave a presentation of all the different projects that they would like to see at the Lamar Tree Park. This year was a little different because as we were going through the different ideas and designs that they had, I was asking them to pick one that maybe we could start working on and try to make one of them become a reality. And they advised me that they actually have a grant to do some of that work and to help offset some of the cost. So they're very excited. They're going to try to narrow down their list of all the different projects so that we can do one that would be a targetable or achievable goal that we could work on over the next year or two. So excited to work with them. It's always a pleasure to go in and meet with the kids and let them know a little bit about what we do here at the City Council. All right, with that said, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. For the old business, we have an update on SCEDD Workforce Housing Project and a discussion about the invoice from SCED. So we have somebody here today like to speak to us.
Good evening. I'm John Fulton with Southern Colorado Economic Development District, here just to provide a brief update on the housing project. The Southeastern Colorado Workforce Housing Project aims to build approximately 60 new housing units across 6 counties and 9 municipalities in Southeastern Colorado. It's going good and it's moving quickly. We're going to be doing survey work over the next 2 weeks. We're hoping to begin pre-sales here probably in another month or so. The pre-sales are an important element of the process. And at this time, we do need direction from council if there are any preferred buyers, or if you would like the Lamar sites just to be sold first come, first serve. All the units do need to be pre-sold before construction begins.
How many units were going to be in Lamar?
There are going to be 5 in Lamar. The Lamar site is at 8th and Savage. It's currently vacant land. It's going to be subdivided into 14 parcels, and 5 of these will be purchased by SECED and be used for single-family homes.
Okay.
There will be 5 homes available.
What happens if you don't get 5 buyers?
Then we will not build all 5 here in Lamar.
You'll build whatever's.
We'll build whatever is pre-sold.
Okay.
Okay. So when you're talking about pre-selling them, that's not only just, I mean, of course, we want to sell it to families first and foremost, but if there is an investor that wanted to buy one as a rental or something like that, we could also do that. Was that an understanding that I'd gotten out of our meetings? Okay.
Yes, correct.
So, okay, just making sure in case we were down to the wire and needed to get 1 or 2 sold, that would be an opportunity for them as well.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And so that's really it. Yeah, we need direction from council if there are any preferred buyers. And everything else is moving along smoothly.
I don't think we've ever discussed preferred buyers. I think we were going to leave it open for the market
Okay.
to, so if you want to just market them out in the open, I would think, don't you?
Right, but I think you're smart to say preferred buyers being owner occupiers.
Or if you had any teachers that you wanted to have it available for, or
Mhm.
there could be owner occupiers or individuals.
Yeah, I think that would be the preference is owner occupied first.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's a preference on teachers or workforce
Are you
or,
looking for an answer tonight or
No.
is this something, okay, so this may be something that a committee or something could kind of discuss and maybe come up with a solution and, or the council can talk about and come up with exactly how they want to structure that or the criteria they want to use to come up with.
and I don't know if we need that formal or what do you, I was just going to give them kind of broad direction, but without like a formal direction, but we could do it formal if the council feels like that's necessary.
Yeah, if anybody felt strongly.
The only thing that I'm against is big investment firms coming in, buying them, turning around, selling them for profit. That's the only thing I would be against.
Okay.
I think with 5 sites in Lamar, all 5 will be bought by owner occupiers, but
Okay.
I don't know that to be a fact.
What would the council like to do as far as direction? Just leave it broad, owner occupied.
I've got a question.
Okay.
This, is this a one-time payment of $69,813? Or are we gonna have to come up with more money after this? I apologize, but my network went out, so I didn't get all of it that was being streamed.
Okay, we were just doing the presentation right now and getting an update, but that is the second part of this presentation was to discuss the invoice that we received. When this project originally came up, we had discussed, they had brought it to the attention of the council and they had asked for the council to contribute roughly $70,000 to this project. And that would be the city's investment into this project. So we have kept the number the same throughout the whole project up to date. But it was something that the council did pass a couple of months ago. I don't remember the exact date, but we did pass to participate in the program and to do our investment in the program. But they did send the actual invoice for payment of it, and that's what they were looking for. So Stephanie, did you?
Stephanie Gonzalez, I'm with SCTV, and this is intended to be a one-time participation with money from the city. So our intention was to be able to take care of those initial costs and with everybody that participated with those communities, it would be a one-time. So we won't be coming back for additional money unless there would be a phase 2, and that would be
A separate agreement altogether.
Separate, yeah. It does not have to be money on phase.
Okay. So that's the second part of our presentation. We did have a question on there to approve the invoice if the council was ready to approve this invoice to be paid so that they could proceed with this project. So that would need a motion if that was the direction of the council.
Have all the other cities chipped in? Okay,
So moved.
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to pay the invoice for the Southeast Colorado Workforce Housing Assessment with the ARP funds committed to the project. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Unanimous in favor of?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we will move on to the next item on the agenda, trying to get through since we have a busy night. Next item on the agenda is informational discussion of marijuana ballot initiative. Last month, we did have somebody from the pro side of the marijuana initiative address the city council. And we thought it was only fair to give the same amount of time and the same opportunity to anybody that was against it, so that they would have the opportunity to speak to the council. Now, even though the council isn't making a decision on this subject, and it's going to be out to the ballot for the people to decide, we are given the opportunity to have the speakers talk to us so that the audience that's watching online, in person, can have the opportunity to get that information. So with that said, we do have Roger Stagner here, former mayor, who would like to give some information on this ballot initiative. Roger?
This should only take about an hour and a half. Because I've set up there and I know what it's like, so I want to make sure you guys get the full extent of it. And then Matthews will probably take, what, another 2 hours? Okay. Matthew has a lot more facts on certain things than I do, what it'll do to youth, what it'll do to your community. The one thing I really wanted to bring up, because I went and did some checking, and the lady was paid that came and talked to the council and paid for her article in the newspaper. And so she keeps bringing up that we're losing $1 million a year. Los Angeles only sells about $100,000 worth. We'd have to sell as much as Pueblo. Oklahoma passed marijuana, so that avenue is going to close up. It's a new gold rush. They come to town, they take all the money they can get. What happens when the market dies? And you're left here with 4 or 5 empty buildings, or however many you let come into town. Now, she was saying that we could build the bypass with it. We couldn't build the first mile of the bypass with it in 10 years. And then she wrote in the paper, in the ledger, Trinidad got the best grant. We can't even qualify for it because we don't have marijuana. Lamar's got the best grant. Grenada's got the best grant. Holly's got the best grant. So to come in our community and lie about this stuff doesn't make any sense. Again, I'm hoping people will look it up themselves. They need to look up what marijuana does to the community. If that's what they want, they can vote for it. It's not a good thing for your community. I don't see Los Angeles really growing because of it. Kurt will tell you he's had businesses. I had businesses that talked to us and said, you don't have marijuana anymore? No. We'd like to look at your community. Now, I can't say anybody's came here because of it. But I do know people have stopped at the Welcome Center and stayed in our hotels because we don't have marijuana. I know they've ate in our restaurants because we don't have marijuana. Also talked to a lady in Trinidad that owns a, I guess you'd call it a snack shop type deal next to a marijuana business. When it came in, she thought, great, I'm going to sell all this stuff because they have the munchies all the time. Her business has gone down. They don't come in her business to buy anything. They go next door, they buy the marijuana, and they leave. They don't spend money in town. Very few of them do anything but come to town, buy the marijuana, and go. So you're going to take the business that Los Angeles has. People from Lamar won't go there, they'll come here, and there'll be some people from Kansas come here. I don't see how we're going to get 10 times the business that Los Angeles has. I don't think it's real. So that's what I wanted to talk about. I really hope people research it themselves. That's what they need to do. Matthew has some very good information. A lot better about giving that to you than what I am.
Did you want to talk, or it's up to you?
I will gladly speak if the record reflects there's not an opposition. As a county employee, we cannot speak pro or against. I would like to share information if it's in a full setting. So if the council will reflect that on the record, I will not speak.
Okay. 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 So just to make sure everybody heard that, as a county employee, he's not taking a side one way or another. He is not trying to reflect an opinion one way or another, but he did have some information that he wanted to share. So we can defer to that if you'd like. Did you have anything else, Roger?
No, you were gonna share the facts. Yeah.
Yep.
No.
So, okay.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
So you just let us know your name when you come up and
You're gonna go through that entire binder,
that
right?
whole binder.
I've been watching a lot of press briefings from the news, so I wanted to come prepared with anything anyone had any questions for. So my name is Matthew Vizak. I work for Prowess County Public Health and Environment, and I'm here to share some data and information on substance use of marijuana within Prowess County as a whole. So with a lot of the ballot issues we see in the last couple of years, it brings a lot of passion and a lot of opinions on both sides of these issues. So what I would like to do is just share some data that we have collected that's part of my work. I go through and I collect information from different sources from the state level, local level. We use surveys and try to get as much accurate information as we have. So with that being said, I would like to share some of that with the fine residents of Lamar and Prowess County. So when we look at marijuana, we have a lot of back and forth. I know the misinformation has been kind of said or half said without going into kind of the full details. So with some of our local data that we are able to collect, most of it is through our Healthy Kids Colorado survey data. And for those who are unaware of what that survey data is, so Healthy Kids Colorado is a survey that's done on every other year. So it's done on the odd years. And then it takes about a year to process. So schools right now are in a cycle where they'll take that survey anywhere from now until Thanksgiving. And then the school at Public Health and CU Ann Schultz will have a team. They'll analyze that data and it'll take about 9 months. So you will not see results until sometime in May, June, August of next year, 2022. So that's an optional survey. So schools at the middle and high school level can opt in to take that survey. Anyone is open to take it. Or you can, if you were not selected, you can actually say, I want to take that. I want to get the data for our community, for our schools to understand things like that. So that survey will go through every topic that you can think of. It goes through home life, it goes through, are you involved in extracurricular activities? It'll talk about sexual activity. It'll talk about substance use. It goes on and on. Family life, educational levels of those in your household. So it's a very in-depth survey that provides a lot of accurate information, because it's not the best practice to assume that youth are doing something when they're not. So the best way to get that information is to ask youth themselves. So this survey has been vetted. It's used across the state for many, many years now, almost about, I think 12 years it's been in full practice. So with that, we have some data from local high school and middle school within Prowess County. So a part of this survey is the school owns the rights to that survey. So it's not public knowledge unless the school chooses to release that information. So when I share some of this information that I have here, it's going to be an unnamed high school and an unnamed middle school. So part of getting that information at the county level is we have to redact that name, so we cannot share what school it is. But I can tell you it is from a school located within Prowess County. So with that being said, we always hear, it's not our kids don't do this, our kids don't do that. We may look up to our neighbors down the valley in Lahana. We may look to Pueblo, Denver, Aurora, the Front Range, and say those are those issues. But with some of our data, it's kind of back and forth about what we see. So when we look at risk or harm of risk, for a percentage of students who think marijuana is harmful or a great harm to them, at the state level, 50% of all students at the state level find marijuana harmful or greatly harmful, so it poses a risk. When we look down to our high school data within Prowess County, that 50% drops down to 33%. So our youth do not find marijuana harmful. That's county level data. When we look at a regional data, so this is going to include our health statistic region number 6, which includes Kiowa, Prowess, Baca, Bend, Otero, Crowley, Los Animas, and I believe I said Warpino, but they're in there as well. It goes back up to 46%. So even our neighboring schools and our neighboring youth from counties in our region still find marijuana more harmful than youth within Prowess County. I know we talked, and it's come up at some of the different discussions about driving while using substances. We do see about 120 DUIs within Prowess County a year, give or take. Within that, we do see, when we ask the question of students who drove in the last 30 days, who had been using marijuana one or more times, that's only students who can drive. 13.2% of Prowess County students who can drive admit to driving while using marijuana. When asked if they rode in a car with someone who had used marijuana in the past 30 days, that number jumps up to 26.4%. So our youth are getting into vehicles with individuals who are using marijuana and then driving. And I know that's a very important topic right now, especially with the amount of DUIs that we do see and the DUIDs that we do see, not only within the city, but the county and the region as a whole. That's a big public safety issue that I know along the Front Range, they've seen a little bit of an increase of that as well, especially this last year with the pandemic, as we see more substance use being committed by not only youth, but adults as well. And then when we jump to, Bob, does anyone have any questions? Okay, and if at any time you want me to stop talking because I have a long agenda,
Yeah.
you just tell me that.
Yeah, if you can kind of condense a little bit of it, that would be great.
I'll start rambling real fast just so we get some information out. When we look to students who use marijuana one or more times in their life, state average is about 35.8% of youth who have used marijuana one or more times in their life. When we look at Prowess County, it jumps up to 42.2%. So 42.2% of youth in Prowess County admit to using marijuana at least once in their life. So when we look at active use, so this is what we consider active use, is 30-day use. So students who have used marijuana one or more times in the last 30 days. At the state average, it goes to 20.6% of youth. Prowess County, we jump up to 27.1, which is a 6.5 percentage point increase over the state average when we look at active marijuana use. When we look at students who tried marijuana before the age of 13, which is about your 7th grade age level, we have at the state average, 6.7%. Prowess County High School is about 7.1, so we mirror that. But what the alarming statistic here for the age of 13 is 1 in 5 middle schoolers, or 20%, have tried marijuana before the age of 13, which is 13 percentage points higher than the state average. So our middle schoolers are using at a younger age than our high schoolers currently in the county. So middle schoolers are starting younger compared to when their peers who are now in high school started using marijuana or substances. Then the big one, I know people can take this how they feel and which way. So there's a question on this survey. It's percentage of students who feel it would be sort of easy or very easy to get marijuana if they wanted. So at the state average is 51.4% of you think it's easy or very easy to access marijuana. When we look at youth, high school youth in Prowess County, that number actually drops to 43.8%. So our youth think it's harder to access marijuana, so it's not as easy, but we're still using at about 6.5 percentage points higher than youth. So it's harder to get in their eyes, but they're using at a higher rate than their peers across the state. So we kind of see that correlation there of what could happen potentially if marijuana does come into the city. And I think that's something that we have a lot of youth programs, city programs, county programs that are more than capable of handling any influx or not. And I know to kind of keep it to that, I will stop talking because I could sit up here and talk for another hour or two. So.
You have on your survey, is there a question of where they get it from? Parents, friends?
For my recollection, I do not believe they asked that for marijuana. I know they asked that for other substances. So they'll ask like tobacco, they'll ask for alcohol, but I'm not sure if they ask it for marijuana, I can go back and look at that survey and I can send that over in an email.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
What does that compare with like alcohol? I mean, because alcohol has been here way longer than marijuana.
So when we look at alcohol, we ran a community health assessment for alcohol and what it does for youth perception of it. So what we find at the county level, and we surveyed individuals all over the county, alcohol is more accepted, especially for youth, because what we kept saying is that is acceptable or that is what youth do. It's almost like that rite of passage. Parents will put restrictions on their child using alcohol. It's, I need to know where you're at, where you're doing it, no driving, which is more acceptable than marijuana use. What we do see though is it is about comparable, not having the exact numbers in front. I know when we talk about drinking and driving for youth, that number does drop down to about 8.1, 8.4%. So youth do drink and drive less than they use marijuana and drive, but for use, it is very comparable, and I can gather all that information and send it your way. But our youth in our county and our region, they do use substances. They use substances that go beyond alcohol and marijuana. We have youth that use meth, heroin, use prescription pills. About 1 in 8, 1 in 9 of our county level youth will use a prescription pill without a prescription, so like taking illegal prescriptions. So we do have all of that, but when we look at alcohol and marijuana, those do go hand in hand, and most of that data will mirror back and forth.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions, Matt? I guess not. Thank you very much for giving us your data and your information and sharing that. Thank you to Roger for coming in and talking to us as well. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
So we will continue on with the agenda. Now we will move into new business. We do have a resolution number 2110-02, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Lamar, amending resolution 1904-02, which adopt the modified stage 1 mandatory water restrictions. This was brought in by Chief Kyle Miller. Would you like to come up and talk about that?
Sure. Good evening. Our current water restrictions are from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., 365 days a year. I get having to contact a lot of individuals who are watering their lawns now during the nice part of the day. Don't want to be out watering at 6 o'clock when it's dark and cold. So what my thought was to allow people to water basically whenever they wanted, except from May 1st to September 30th. Whenever it's hot, so we don't lose a lot of water to evaporation. This would amend that resolution to allow watering except for that May 1st to September 30th timeframe, which would still remain this 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Restriction. Everything else in that previous resolution is still the same. It's just the times where we added a date in there whenever the restrictions would be in place.
So would it be better to do the resolution, and I'm asking the council, do the resolution with the modification or just drop the stage 1 water restriction during those timeframes? I guess, what are your thoughts there?
I think that the stage 1 water restrictions are still a good thing during the summertime because in the heat of the day, you don't want to be watering because you're losing a lot of it to evaporation anyways. I think that's the reason to modify it.
Okay. And just leave it in place all the time?
Right.
You got anything to say on this, Pat?
So Kyle was talking to me. Sounded like the biggest concern was, early spring, late fall, like we're getting into now. People are trying to water the yards still, but they're waiting until 6. It's getting dark. So he was saying, even code enforcement or whatever is required. They want more time to water. So I did take this to the water board. They agreed that we didn't see a big issue with amending the restrictions to allow the water that make it work. And I think one of the things we thought about too is if you're going to start a yard plant, you hired me first. You know, and I did kind of caught up in this deal too, with people come in after May 1, waivers. So maybe what we can say is get your yard started, get it going, and we have to be waiting for May 1st. Water outside the district boundaries. The water board is in agreement with and in a nutshell, starting May 1st till September 30th, the water restrictions would get back to the so.
Okay, thank you.
I move we approve the resolution.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve resolution 21-1002. Are there any final questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Unanimous in favor of?
Okay, next item on the agenda is application for the Victims Assistance and Law Enforcement, the VAIL Grant for 2022. This was also initiated by Chief Kyle Miller. So would you like to speak on this?
Absolutely. So this is, we have a part-time person, 34% of her salary comes through this grant. She sends out the information to any victims. The VRA, the Victims' Rights Act, she ensures that they are notified of all the necessary information as required by that act. This is just a grant we apply for as long as I can remember. This year we're asking for $16,666. And it's broken down in the package how that would be distributed through that grant. I'm just asking for approval and to allow the mayor to sign for the grant.
Make a motion to accept the application out of the mayor sign.
Second.
A motion and a second to accept the application and allow the mayor to sign. Any final questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Unanimous in favor of?
Okay, moving on, we have agenda item number 3, CCOM agreement for Police Department Annex building. Chief, would you like to talk on this one?
Sure. So currently we have internet service that is point to point, which is 220 by 20. And we're paying $256 a month for that. The new internet service would be 100 by 100 and it would go down to $64.95 a month. So it's a pretty significant savings and we're going to increase our speed. Yeah, I was the same way. They told me the numbers. Should we do this or not? So I'm just asking to accept the agreement and allow the mayor to sign.
I mean, we accept the agreement, allow the mayor to sign.
There's just one issue with it. It's a 24-month contract. So we just need to add the addendum that we did, I think, to the same contract a year ago or whenever we entered the agreement last time. So just
It was a different, it was a CCOM agreement.
CCOM.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was a CCOM agreement, but for a different department.
Okay, so, and they're aware of it. And
We had to add the,
so we just need to do the motion with the added addendum.
And I can get that to you tomorrow.
Okay. So would you like to modify your motion? Who had the motion?
I did. Yep, to add the amendment or addendum.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Right, we have a motion and a second to accept the agreement and allow the mayor to sign with the addendum as stated by our city attorney. Any final questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Right. Opposed, same sign.
Unanimous in favor of?
Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is a request for extraterritorial water service. This was brought in by Patrick Mason, the Public Works Director. Pat?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. So staff has received a request for city water service. It's located actually outside the city limits at 6834 County Road HH.5, which is actually an extension of West Maple Street, just across the Greenbelt. We do actually have a main water line that runs through there now, and we service multiple customers already out there. So we don't see it as a problem to be able to provide that service. Mrs. McBroom has already actually signed the extraterritorial water agreement. So she agrees to all the terms and conditions in it. So staff would recommend that we approve that service.
Make a motion to approve out of area water service
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the extraterritorial water service agreement. Any final questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Unanimous in favor of?
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the Prowess County Risk Mapping Assessment and Planning Project, Phase 2 Data Development. Pat?
You know, meetings back.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of a way to explain this to just, put it in layman's terms, and it's kind of like a train coming down the tracks. Either get out of the way or you're going to get run over, but it's going to happen. So we were approached back in the spring by CWCB and FEMA, more or less, who hired a engineering firm to basically redo the flood survey, flood mapping, more or less, which is what FEMA bases their insurance rates off of. And so it sounds like they've got the funding between the two of them. They're going to update their flood map and their flood rates along with that. So what they have done is come in and have gathered a little bit of preliminary data from us from prior studies in the last 10 years that we've received from other agencies that have done a little work on it. And so we provided that to them. They've come up with some preliminary data, but they want to proceed forward here. And they're asking that any data, of course, we have that we share with them. And this MOU that they're asking us to sign more or less doesn't really bind us to any monetary type of contract or anything. It just kind of ensures us a seat at the table to, we don't even necessarily, I suppose, have to accept or agree with anything when they're done. But an alternative is we're just not a part of the process. So I would recommend that we take our seat at the table and we're going to be a part of that process as it goes forward. There's a couple different choices or routes we could go right now. I think it's pretty obvious. We don't have any funding in our pocket right now to, totally rebuild the levee or, and we know there's going to be some issues they've already pointed out. And we've known this from the past that there's some deficiencies in the freeboard on it, not, tremendous deficiencies, but it's going to need some work. And we're talking about quite a bit of money, more than likely. So what they've offered at this point in time is more or less like a LAMP survey. And it's basically a levee analysis and mapping plan. Well, they'll go through and look at it and tell us where the issues are at and where the work needs to be done. And then we move forward from that point. And there is funding out there that we can pursue from multiple agencies. A lot of it requires, that we match a portion of it like most grants. So, I think it's staff's recommendation that we sign the MOU with them and proceed accordingly. I think this is going to be a long-term process. I think they're estimating that this map would be complete 2024, 25. So it's going to be a few years by the time they do all their studies and engineering.
So do you know what all of their studies come in at once? Is it done like they've done this section and then they give you the information from that? Or is it all at once in a few years? Here's all the information. That's one question. The other one is, do you know if then do they put any time frames on doing any recommendations as far as repairs or upkeep?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think the way they're going to approach this, obviously in the end, we'll get a final report that says, here's your analysis for your levy. But I think as we move into it, we're going to start, what they're willing to do, and we asked them this question, if we say, for example, the portion of the levee going through the park, if we felt like it was in pretty good shape, could they look at that as just its own reach? They call them reaches. So they might look at just the Willow Creek portion that's in the park as its own section or reach and do an analysis on just that piece of it and say, okay, here's what you'd have to do with just this piece. And then they take the next piece and work on it. So, but what their main focus is from city limits to city limits. So about the golf course where, Willow Creek crosses the highway to about County Road 9 on the downstream end. So that's what they're more or less focusing on right now is just that piece for Lamar. Now they're also working in communities of Wiley, Grenada, Hawley on similar issues, but it's more than likely just inside those city limits. So.
Yeah, this is a pretty big project and they're doing it throughout Southeast Colorado. So they're looking at all the different watersheds and where the basins are so they can determine where the flood risks are. But this will be a long-term 24, 25, like you said, before they're done. But this is just to keep us in the loop of everything that's going on.
You're on all these monitoring stations. Are they just monitoring the flow?
I don't know that they're, I think from what I understand, and they've actually already done some of this, is they've done some LiDAR radar studies already of this whole area. So they've got LiDAR mapping. I think what they'll start doing now is putting all that together to develop a whole new floodplain map. So, but I don't know so much about monitoring stations to monitor current flows, or, I mean, they could potentially do some of that, I suppose, but I think what they're more or less doing is looking at the integrity of our current levee and potential 100-year floods, that could happen. The 100-year floods, so.
Well, we got another 40 years before that.
That's what I'm saying. I think we should do
Hey, any questions, any other questions before we do a motion?
To move, we approve approve the mayor's signature on the MOA.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the mayor's signature on the memorandum of the MOA for the Prowess County Risk Mapping Assessment and Planning Project. Any final questions?
Lance, have you looked over all this?
Yeah, I mean, it's just another MOU, so I don't really have a whole lot to add to it. To me, there's no financial commitment, so there's no table issues or anything like that with it. And the commitment in it, as Pat was speaking to, I think it's primarily a sharing of information and really, like Pat was saying, old surveys and any other information that they have that could be related to this project, sharing that. And then it seemed like there was some communication basis for, what input from the community from that standpoint too. So I don't have any issues.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other final questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Unanimous in favor of?
Okay. Next item on the agenda is a request from Lamar Community College to place a storage unit on city property. This was brought in by Rick Akers.
Mr. Mayor, Council, yes, this is a request. LCC got a hold of me, Chad DeBono, and they want to be able to place I think it's a 12 by 32 lofted barn shed on a piece of property that the city owns. It's just north of the Betts building. It's that right between their parking lot and the Fort Line. All it is dirt and weeds. I mean, that's really all that's there. Although they do have access to the substation that goes there, they will not block that. And for the longest time, up until about 5, 6, 7 years ago, I thought the college owned that anyway. They used that for overflow parking. Then I found out that we own it, so we needed to start maintaining it. But if they can place this lofted barn there, they will take over all maintenance to make sure that the weeds and everything is taken care of. And I think it's a pretty good deal. They need it for their construction and be able to store things. It's not used for anything else, and I didn't see a problem. I did talk with the mayor. He thought, bring it to council and ask what council thought. So I'm just asking if it's all right if they have permission to place a building on that piece of property.
Are they going to do some kind of formal agreement, which I think we probably should do?
I'm sure we could. Yeah.
Just in case all of us leave someday and nobody knows what the
Why it's
case
there.
is and
Yes.
what's on our property. So I really think that we need something formal, don't you?
Like an IGA?
Something like that.
What do you think, Lance?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I don't imagine it to be too lengthy. So,
No.
Okay.
Come see it.
okay.
Thanks, Lance.
It says that in 3 or 4 years, you're gonna move it.
Well, yeah, they're using this now because they've got all the construction going on and it's not enough place. But once they start getting everything done, they'll find a more permanent place for it to do. So I don't look for it longer than 3 to 4 years. Time can change, and I don't think that the college would have a problem if we just did a
Perpetual
IGA that said, hey, as long as you've got this here during this time frame, blah, 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 go from there.
Yeah, we can iron out those details. Get something that's.
And it's my goal that we do something with the front half of that. Let's say the first 50 to 100 feet. Because that's where the sidewalks are going in and the bridge. So it would be nice to really make that better, and it helps when the LCC is responsible for that.
Make a motion to let LCC put its storage building on city property.
Second.
But we need to say approved an IGA, that's what we would need to do.
With an IGA.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve an intergovernmental agreement with Lamar Community College to allow them to place a storage shed on the property. Is that correct? On your motion?
Yep.
And on your second?
Yes.
Okay. So any final questions?
When are they purchasing this, or when are they planning to put it on the property?
I think just as soon as we can get something done, let's.
Okay. Any other final questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Unanimous in favor of?
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Next item on the agenda is the review of the rates and fee changes for 2022. Once a year, as we're finalizing the budget, we go through and do a review of our rates and fees and make any modifications or changes that we need to before we finalize the budget. So there were a few little changes in there. You can see one of them on the first page was freestanding carports larger than a 12 by 20 would have a different permit cost of $125. We did have North Gateway Park per use fees of the picnic shelters. Since we do now have 2 new picnic shelters at North Gateway Park, we always offer them as reservations only if you wanted to use them and reserve them for a picnic, a party, whatever it may be. So we would be classifying the new rate for the North Gateway Park shelters at $40 each. That is, there is one at the front of the park, and that's set at $40 as well. So all 3 shelters at North Gateway Park would be $40 rental. And then city cleanup fee in addition to equipment and manpower. This is the discussion that we had, and I wanted to bring this up for discussion. For city cleanup fees, currently, I don't remember what they are currently. Kyle?
Yeah, so the first option is 250, the second one is 350, the third one is 500.
Okay. So that would be a change on the fees as well for 2022. And then off-duty police security per hour, we have been charging $35 an hour, and that was moved up to $40. Roll-off fees that may be subject to weight charges, we'll be adding that as of 2022. Can you explain that a little bit more, Pat?
So, product on the scale, and everything's shingles, heavy concrete. So what we figured out, once we installed the scale, people have figured out a loophole to go around it, that order a roll off and go full time. So we decided to put a little footnote in. We'd like to put a footnote in the fees to say that, heavy roads would be subject to weight charges instead of a flat rate for roll-off. And we wouldn't charge both, but it'd be one or the other. So like if it's concrete or shingle, for heavy material, we're more likely to go ahead.
Okay.
So one of the, did you say that the cleanup fee is changing?
Yes, so I was just going through all the changes and then we can go back through, but.
She just highlighted the stuff in the red.
Okay.
So that's what we were discussing.
For the offenses.
Right.
So they're not changed, they're just highlighted for discussion.
Correct.
Okay, okay. So part of the reason why they highlighted it, to go back, I know we're talking about trash, but since you wanted to go back to that one, I brought it up as a discussion, not so much for the fees that we are assessing to the first, second, and third offense fees. Those are okay. The question that I had, and I wanted to pose to the city council, is this past summer, Pat's guys, the street department was mowing a lot of houses. You know, this is something that we have plenty of businesses in the city of Lamar that do mowing service, that have lawn care service. We have kids that would like to do mowing on the side. You know, I felt that a lot of the individuals that were in the community that were getting these fines were asking the city basically to do this at a lower expense, or because it was convenient. So I was proposing that we change the amount of fees that we're charging per hour. Do we have that in here? Labor rate per man hour?
Page 20.
On page 20, second to the last. So currently we're charging $18 an hour. You know, the minimum wage changes. If you're looking at hiring a high school kid to mow your yard, you could do that for $20 to mow your yard or $30 to mow your yard. I just feel that our employees in the city are very busy. They're already doing streets. You know, we had complaints about the city not being able to keep our own weeds mowed. Well, it's hard for us to keep our own weeds mowed if we're out mowing everybody else's yards because they're not taking care of them. So I think there needs to be a little bit more of a modification to that man hour to where we can make it more, not as appealing for them to just allow the city to go in and mow the yard, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. Right now, $18 an hour, it's going to take you an hour. Sure, I'll pay $18 to have to mow my yard. Why not? But, you know, if it was a little bit more than that, I might second guess it. If the neighbor kid will do it for 20 and the city's going to charge me 40 per hour, that would change things. But I wanted to bring it up to the council, see what your thoughts were, have that discussion, and get some direction from there on that. You guys, anybody?
I don't know if I may, can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't know if it's out of line, but we're asking $40 for a off-duty police officer for security. Would it be out of line to be asking for $35 for a city employee to go out and do that mowing? I mean, in my opinion, that city employee is just as important as that police officer.
Okay, fair point.
I'll agree with Joe. I mean, if some kid wants to do it for 20 and we're going to charge him 35, let the kid do it.
Right. And that's the idea, is we don't want to encourage people to rely on the city to mow when there's plenty of businesses out there that do lawn service at a lower cost. So just trying to make it to where we're encouraging them to go out and make the call, schedule it with their neighbor kid or anybody else other than the city, because we're trying to fix the streets. We're trying to keep our own weeds clean. We're trying to keep our wastewater and water systems going. I mean, there's a lot that we have to do. And when our guys are mowing somebody else's yard, that's taking a lot of time away. So. So that was the suggestion I was making, is bumping that from $18 to doubling it maybe. Okay, who did?
Yeah. I'll make a motion.
Okay, well, we'll wait for 1 second if you don't mind. You had a question?
So, Mr. Mayor, you mentioned that you're only charging $18 an hour.
Yes.
It costs the city more than that for an employee.
Exactly.
If you're paying that employee 17, you're looking for more like $40 an hour.
Exactly.
By the time you pay benefits, and I just want to bring that up.
And it is also, just to clarify, we add the equipment used plus the labor, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, couple of points. So if you go to say like a mower,
at $40 an hour, that includes the operator in that charge. If it's just strictly labor, then it's at $18 per hour. But you're going to have to do it twice that. It's been several years since we've looked at that. I know they took maybe the actual average wage of the maintenance and added, benefits to that. They decided to that.
But I guess I just have an issue with the penalty structure fee structure, that it increases, but we're calling it a fee. To me, it seems more punitive than a fee, because a fee should be, you should be able to link it to some kind of administrative cost. And why would it increase each time you go out there? If it was a flat rate for any time that there was a violation, that makes more sense to me than the 3 different violations or number of violations increase the cost.
So I guess there are 2 different parts. One is you're talking about the fees for the fines.
Right.
And then we were talking about the hourly for actually, corridor mowing or for us to mow them and clean them.
Right.
So we were just making a simple double the rate to $36. That way it's not as simple, but we can talk about, what do you think? You're saying that having the 3 different fee levels is a question.
It doesn't appear as much of a fee to me, and it doesn't seem that it fits the same. So it's not a penalty in the sense that someone goes before the judge and has a hearing and they have due process rights before that. It's basically we assess this fine, but it increases. And again, there's no due process involved with that. We're calling it a fee. It feels more like a penalty.
So can we just change the wording to a fine?
Except that there's a limit on the amount that can be fined under our ordinances. I think it's $350.
No, 300.
300. So I know this is what's been in place. I understand. I don't know how long the fee structure has been like that, but
This hasn't been in there. That's new.
That's new.
Is
The
it?
fee?
What is new?
so
I didn't think it was new.
No, we've had that in there for years.
Okay, well, it's all
Yeah.
red, and so there was.
It was for discussion. That was the reason I put it in.
Do we know how often those fees have been assessed? Second and third time?
Several times. So just this summer, I know that 3 different residents hit the top mark because we've mowed them at least 3 times. And these aren't residents that people live in. These are residents that nobody lives in, that the weeds have grown out of control.
And I'm gonna guess it's the weeds that are tall, it's not the grass that just needs a little trim, right? So
Correct.
it's gonna take extra manpower, extra work, extra labor to get this taken care of. So
Correct. There's very, very few places that people actually live in, if I'm not mistaken, that people actually live in that we are mowing.
that's why I think 35 or double doesn't even seem that unreasonable. I mean, you're dealing with weeds that are.
I'm not even talking about the hourly rate. I'm talking about that
The
flat.
fee.
It's back on page 14 under the police.
So
Okay.
Did you have something to say, Pat?
Actually, I was going to theory for office when it was correct. A lot of times, I'm always through this process, trying to give them a chance to get them loaded and whatnot. By the time we do it, for 6 foot tall, like trees and days. So I think it's like extra work too. So, yeah.
And I know this summer there was a house that had weeds, and I'm not that tall, but they were taller than me, and it was not good.
So you're saying from a legal standpoint or from a personal standpoint?
legal standpoint.
So from a legal standpoint, we shouldn't have the increasing fee structure.
Right, if it's a fee, it should be for comparison purposes. Lana has the same or similar ordinance. They have a flat fee of $100 for their administrative costs. They again, of course, charge an hourly rate for the work that they do, but they have a flat rate for fee purposes for administrative costs.
Kyle, do you want to add anything to that or comment?
Not necessarily about that, but we're not having problems with people who live here in town. It's the corporations that have, if we can't contact, write a ticket, get them into the court process.
Right.
They live in Texas, they live in California, and we struggle to, we have no ability to write a ticket to come back to municipal court. That's where the fees are important for us to be able to utilize them. Because that's our only way of getting anything done. That's last I talked to extensively about the increase in fees. Where's the due process? How do people feel about it with questions or has the right to be heard prior to that meeting? I think that we have the same opinion is if you set a fee, that's fine, $100 administrative fee, but it needs to stay at $100 per time. Plus the cost of the equipment and man hours off. Just for the administrative side, I think it needs to stay flat.
Okay. So you want to change it from a three-tiered fee structure to just a flat rate of the first offense is 250 and just do a flat rate of 250
I think if we
per occurrence.
The administrative fees of 250, absolutely.
And then we could say if it happens again in 6 weeks, you can assess another administrative fee of 250.
Plus the cost of the equipment, right?
Right. And is that acceptable to do it that way?
That's fine. Like I said, my concern is that it acts more like a penalty than a fee. You have a chance, there was the potential that it could be challenged and it could have ramifications because of that. So I'm just warning, I guess, bringing it to your attention that I think that when you have fees, column fees, it should be able to be proportionate to what administrative costs are going to be, and they shouldn't increase because why on earth would a fee increase if you're going out there to do the same assessments as we were doing before?
Okay. So that would be the idea, is to set a flat fee like he's saying. And if we want to just use the first offense and get rid of the second and third, and instead of calling it we'll just call it an administrative fee for code enforcement.
If you can word it as a code enforcement fee or however else, I think everything gets involved in it. Administration, code enforcement, it's not just one set thing, it hits a lot of different areas. So whatever would best be suited for it.
Okay.
I think an administrative fee is what it should state.
Okay, so why don't we, and before we do a motion on all of these, I'd like for the council to go through and we'll make all the modifications and then we do a motion to approve with the changes. Agreed.
Well, we'll
Is that
bring it
okay?
back as a resolution.
Okay.
At the next council.
So we'll bring it back as direction. Okay.
I'm good with that 250 flat rate.
Okay. Is everybody else good with that?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. As far as the mowing,
That's not right.
So were we gonna increase the
$18,
36?
well, that's what I was going to go to right now. Rob, do you want to just talk for a minute? You had sent me a text with your comments on the mowing. Do you want to just give your opinion there?
Well, yes, I guess. We do things different in different areas, but you still have to address the man hours lost. Because, if you have 38 hours, you're working for the city and you have to spend 2 hours on somebody else. If they're going to work 2 more hours and give 40 hours to the city, those are overtime hours or whatever. So I don't think it needs to be the straight rate. It needs to be including the hours lost for the city.
Okay. And I guess I was just thinking if we moved it to double that to 36, that might be discouraging enough, but I don't know if that would be adequate enough. Do you think, Rob?
Yes, I think that's the discouragement. I mean, I'll talk to, the attorney on graduated penalties because, second offenses is worse than a first offense. So we got to figure out how to get those things in codified.
Well, for this year, I think we could just kind of make these changes if you're good with that. Everybody on the council?
Yes.
On labor cost, 36, what you said?
That would be my proposal, is doubling it to 36 for labor charge. What do you guys think, Anne Marie?
So ideally, I'd love for it to be more connected, since Lance has given us some lessons on connecting it to actual costs. It would be nice if we had more time to connect it, like what Pat had said it happened in the past. Since we don't have a lot of time to do that, I think we can take it on your recommendation, what that would more likely, or maybe treasurer would have a better idea of
I
what
can
that
give
should
you an
be.
average cost of wages plus benefits, if
Yeah.
that's what you're after.
Yeah.
Is that what you're after?
Yes.
Yes, I can come up with something for you.
Yes.
Would that be somewhere in the ballpark there, or
I think you're high.
we're high?
Would that
Yeah.
include if it was overtime, just like he was saying?
Yeah.
Or was saying? Because then you're talking about lost hours for the city, so
So you'd want to go the max time and a half rate plus benefits? Is that what you're after? And
that's
just,
what I'm after.
or are you going to, I don't think it's going to be in our best interest to try to figure out if they were on overtime or not when they were doing this, because they do it during the city's being paid for the city.
Right.
And so, yes, it's a time away from what they could be doing otherwise, but this has always been part of their job also. So I think you're going to have a hard time justifying that it's additional work unless it gets out of hand, like you're saying.
But I agree.
And I
there
think
would
it's
still
still
time.
Considered lost time for the city.
It is, yes, I
And
agree.
then- And what if they have to put in overtime for the other jobs they gotta get done? I'm good with in the time and a half plus benefits, give it a rough estimate.
Okay, I can come up
I
with an
mean,
amount for you
yeah.
and I'll send you an email.
So that would change per employee that
I think
does
we
it?
just do an average, average
just an
street
average of it?
person. We'll take an average of their department and their wages. And we'll do it times time and a half. And then we always average out our benefits, kind of what they are citywide.
Okay.
We come up with it's usually 24%, 30%, somewhere in there
Okay.
is benefits on top of their wages. And add that to that and come up with an amount.
And my point, just to clarify, my point in wanting to change this is because I don't think our city staff should be mowing anybody's private yard. I mean, it puts us at risk of if something, you know, they have a pipe broke or some object flies through the window and breaks it, you know, we're liable for that because we're the one that's doing the mowing.
Yes, I agree.
So we do put ourselves at risk when we're doing private work on a private, you know, residence. So I do think there's a lot of risk there for the city. Plus, you know, then we're competing with businesses in town that could be doing the mowing or anybody else that could be doing it at a lower cost. So the idea was, let's take away the risk. Let's discourage it from happening. I mean, if it's $100 an hour for me, that would be fine because they shouldn't have to do any of that at all, whether it's 100 or $50.
But it starts to become a penalty at that point and not a fee.
And the hope being is that they would look at a
Legal.
local.
Well, no, it's not a penalty, it's a service fee. So there's a difference between the penalty to a service fee.
Right.
So we're saying this is a service fee because our guys are going out there to mow your
Yes, no, I
yard
agree.
at this hourly rate.
I agree.
So you can either accept it or not.
Right, you're trying to balance.
And that's the way I was looking at it is if you decide you don't want to mow your yard, then you're going to have to accept our service fee amount, or you could go hire somebody else at a normal cost.
Yes, I
So that's where I was coming from.
No,
is,
I understand that.
you know, it's not a penalty as much as it is just an extreme service fee. If we have to do it, it's going to cost you. If you hire a kid down the street, it'll be 10 times less. That's what I was trying to get at.
So you still want me to do the time and a half
Yeah.
average plus okay,
Right.
I'll get you that.
And that's fine. I was just trying to justify or explain why I'm trying to push this because I don't think we should be doing any of them myself, but.
Okay.
Could you give us without time and a half too? I'd like to.
Yes,
I'd like.
I'll give you both. We'll come up with both.
Okay, down at the bottom of that list, it says mower, $40 with operator. If you raise you're not gaining anything unless you raise that rate.
Well, that would be on top of the hours.
No, it says with operator per hour.
Is that right?
Yeah, I was saying, all the equipment actually includes the operator. You can go back.
Well, not necessarily all of that, but I mean, if somebody said, well, I can do, if I pay the kid $40, I can, the city do it for 40 and they got their own mower. That's what I'm getting at, is just that mower mainly.
Yeah, the writing board, I believe, is $40 per hour, food and operator. If that's on a leader and that's different, then that's just straight.
But what I'm saying is if we, for example, if we stuck with the $36, you're charging $4 for the mower?
Well, see, I think.
So what you're saying is not every case takes the riding mower.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if they're not using the riding mower, they're gonna get a flat rate of whatever. we
Right, but
come
I
up
think
with.
what
But
he's
if
saying
the
is
mower
there's-
gets used, it's $40 no matter what.
Right, if we're gonna raise that hourly rate up, then we need to go ahead and make that
Adjust
all the way
those.
down.
Right.
Make that operator charge plus the equipment.
Yeah, so like, for example, the mower charge right now, the writing, $40, whatever that difference is, because it comes up at 18 to 15 to 36. Gets added.
Okay, okay.
And then we'll need to go down and adjust those as well.
All right.
Okay. Okay. Well, what do you think? Changing those, considering those modifications too, or just leaving it as an hourly and a equipment fee? What do you suggest, Pat? So you have an idea of what we're trying to accomplish. What do you suggest we do on those fees? We're trying to discourage, I mean, obviously this is a service that we're offering. We don't want to offer this service at all. I mean, but yeah, we're not in the lawn mowing business.
So I mean, I agree with, I think I'm looking at just straight labor charge. I think we need to probably, just do a study on that, figure out how, we think like a maintenance for one and be performing that. Benefits that have kind of labor rate, just manpower. And then figure out what that difference was and add that to each equipment per hour to make up the difference.
Okay.
That should cover.
Okay.
Okay.
And then, first, second, third,
okay.
Together.
Okay. All right, and then the last page was copy of blank tax forms, copy of fees, nonprofit organization. They added a per side or per sheet, 0.05 per side, 10 cents per side, black and white, 20 cents per color. So it's a minor thing, but it is to one of the fees.
Can I just ask one quick question? And I know this is for the library, but why would we only charge a nickel a page for a blank tax form when anybody else comes to print something and it's a quarter a page? What's the difference there?
I don't know.
We charge a quarter a page. If somebody comes to our office, it's quarter a page across the board. Doesn't matter if they're nonprofit, for profit, it's quarter page. It takes, that covers our costs. Toner, staff time.
Okay. Do you know, did Sue say anything about those or?
You did not bring anything up to me on that, no.
Okay.
So, and I agree with Linda. I think we should keep it at a standard
Okay.
rate all across the building. So I don't think everybody needs to be asking what it's for. You
Right.
just do a certain amount of copies. Otherwise, you're getting into a lot of discussion that doesn't need to happen.
Okay. Council, what do you guys think?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Should we keep nonprofit fee?
I don't
No.
think so.
But I don't
I
think
think
so.
they should just, because then you're having to find out what they're doing and what it's for.
Because they truly could go to Robinson's. Robinson's does printing. It's cheaper than a quarter a page. So this is convenience.
So once again, similar to the mowing,
Exactly.
we're not in the copying business, so.
Correct. So we don't want
wanna
them coming to the library and making thousands of copies because they can get them at 10 cents a piece.
Okay.
To me, because we pay for those copies in that library. That's how we pay
Exactly.
for the copier. So I just don't feel like we need to encourage any more copies than we're already doing. So I don't agree with that change. But
Okay, so we can take those off and leave it. Yes, Mike?
Well, my children, well, one did, but one now still uses the library. And I think the charges were so small kids, when they go there studying. There needs to be a lower charge in there for children in our community. Reports, what have you. And there is people, kids that don't have access to computers to run it on their own.
Okay. Council?
It's in monitoring it, they're still, at what point do you say 10 pages would be adequate, and then from there, anything above that? Because who's gonna stop, Uncle Sammy from coming and saying, hey, go make some copies for me, you get it at 5 cents. Not saying they do, but it could happen. But so if we say, you know what?
It has to be policed as well.
Right, so now it's gotta be policed, and so there's part of the problem with it, is that, what do you say, kids under a certain age, you give them, the first 10 copies, and then everything after that.
And I'm sure we could sue that. I mean, if it's something for school related, do they give it to the kids for free? Or is it a recipe that they're printing out, to try to make something? And then, I guess I'd Sue's department. She could probably just manage that.
And the names of these fees don't give us any indication that they were for children.
No.
Nope. Yeah.
No, this is just the fees that they charge everybody that walks through the doors.
We just leave it for now and ask them to start researching how often that happens with the kids.
Well, you're not gonna know unless you ask, so.
Yeah.
And just leave it at the 25 cents right now until we get more information. Okay. So what I'm hearing is we're gonna take off on first page, we're okay with the 125 building fee or permit fee. Council's okay with the $240 for North Gateway Park on the second page. On the third page, okay with the $40 increase of the security off-duty police.
There was 3.
Well, there's a third one, but it's already in there from last year. And then we're taking off the additional fines, the $350 and the $500, and we're just calling it an administrative fee of $250. Roll-off fees, we were okay with changing that, or not, I guess.
To wait.
To wait, if it's a heavyweight item. We had labor rate that they were gonna research and bring back when they do the resolution with different time and a half. And then we're taking off the last 2 on the final page, 22. Does that sound about right? Or do we have something that needed to revisit?
We want to bump the equipment cost.
Yeah.
Reflective with the hourly rate that you come up with.
Yeah, and that's what I just put it in there
It's down. Yeah, okay,
with the hourly rate.
okay.
Are we good with that, guys?
Yes.
Gals? Okay. Well, we don't have a vote on it. We're just giving direction if that's good, and then we'll vote on it when it comes back formally. Sounds good. Did I miss something? Okay. All right, so we were going to move on to the next item. We have the council update on the WHO building and some, and possibly a decision on this. We, when we purchased the WHO building, which is on Main Street, it's the blue building that was the Hail and Dent Center. We purchased it because a developer was looking at buying it for a new development, a new business in the city of Lamar. And the owner needed to sell it right away. We were at risk of losing the developer, and instead of losing it, the city opted to buy it as an investment property. And in the discussion since we purchased it, we found out, of course, they're going to demolish that blue building, or we can repurpose it and move it someplace else. So I've asked Pat and Craig to look into what it would cost to move that blue building to someplace else within the city so that the city staff can use it for storage. And that's what Craig was going to bring back, is kind of give us an idea of what it would take. And then I was hoping we can get a direction from the council. If you want to move it, if you want to repurpose it, if you want to let them demolish it, what would you like to do from this point? So Craig?
Mr. Mayor, Council, good evening. The Who building, as Mr. Mayor has said, is the blue building that's north of Subway. It has been, I wanted to give you a brief update of what's already taken place with the building. Yes, the city owns it, as you're well aware. We have done a phase 1 through the Brownsville on it. That has been completed and paid for through our Brownsville grant. I've had an asbestos test done on it. It's come back clean. That has been done and completed. We have a demolition permit or a moving permit already through the state CDPHE that is ready to go at the time we decide to do it. We have asked for bids to kind of take it apart into 3 pieces and then move it. The building is actually in very good shape. Pat is desperately in need of extra storage. It would be a great storage building. So we got a price from Southeast Colorado Builders, Press Langston, and he would come in and move it if we were so directed to do that. His cost or bid is right around $28,000, which we thought was very good. We've gotten a couple other prices around that $40,000 to $50,000 range. We would have to put in a footing and foundation system, but Pat and I both felt like we could handle that within the city ourselves. And maybe the way to do it is do that now with your approval and then get the building moved and it could be set someplace until next year and then go ahead and reinstall it next year at that cost. But those are just some ideas we've been tossing around.
What's the building worth as is?
You mean it on the property it is right now?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to replace it.
Well, if you want to replace the building, it's to replace that building as is, probably $85,000.
So moving it would be a cheap deal for us.
Correct. And it would give us the extra space that we could utilize for the things that Pat needs for the stuff that he has to transport back and forth from where it's delivered to your shop.
So what we'd like to do, I don't have to be the space. We have the ability to move out to where the 16-gallon picking up the tanks out of us. We use a system that uses a lot of software. We process the water. We buy it by the truckload to get it a little cheaper, but we got to shovel it out there a couple of pallets at a time. That's just labor intensive. Load it on the trailer, have all the equipment out, and then load the pallet. Put the building there, load the stuff on it. And then we just have a forklift and we prepare and shovel the pallets.
So on my agenda item, the recommendation is to sell the building. So.
And that was actually, I mean, I think that was a misprint, but we could sell the building if you wanted to. When I talked to them, the option was that we either repurpose it or let them demolish it when they purchase it, but either one.
Well, it should have said sell the property for future development and not the building.
And move the building.
And move the building. So yes, that was a misprint.
All right.
So just so the council knows and that people who are watching it knows, the developer that was looking at buying this, we've got in contact even today. Things are still moving forward very well. We received their copy of their contract with the changes that they were recommending. So our attorney's going to look it over. We still have to go back and forth with it, but our hope is to have that at the next council meeting to make a decision on that and close that property sale. So it is moving forward. That's why we're bringing this decision to the council as far as what are we going to do with the blue building? Because once they buy it, they're either going to demolish it and trash it, or we need to move it and use it. So it's up to us how we want to utilize it. We just wanted to throw this out for the council to determine what would be best.
Because once we sell a property, the building's on it, it's theirs.
Right. Okay. If they buy the property with a building on it, it's theirs.
Well, I think we should move it and let Pat and Rick use it instead of demolishing it and then later having to buy something that's going to cost more.
If we say move it, are you gonna have the foundation ready or not?
If you guys want us to move the building, then Pat and I will get together and we'll get it figured out. Yes, we'll have the foundation ready.
Oh, good. Maybe I missed it. But you said you'd park and then get the foundation. Otherwise, it's gonna be tied up. The motor's gonna be tied up.
Right. I mean, we'll get the footing and foundation ready to go.
Okay.
What's, if you don't mind me asking, what's that gonna cost us on top of the $27,000 to $28,000 to move it, the footer and the foundation, with you guys doing all the work?
We'll have material, and I haven't really done a breakout of what we have to have for the columns, which are the purling. I need to check with Southeast Builders, but I can get that and get back to you with that figure.
Do you have an estimate, ballpark?
I do.
Guessing myself, singular. I'm guessing between 16 and
Would you say that as a value, having that building as an extra storage over the next 5 to 10 years is a good deal? Are we gonna, is it a good deal for the city to have that in the cost that we're putting out for it? Are we looking at, you know what, if we had to rent storage space, or if we had to build another building, or is it a good deal down the line?
Absolutely a good deal. And it's saving the city money.
from shopping crews out there all the time trying to get out of the time. You gotta keep that out there. See that everything with the deal of the years.
I make a motion, we move the building.
I'll second it.
I mean, we're still selling the property. We're just talking about the building itself, so.
The building being moved.
A low bid mover. I can't remember.
With the low bid mover, yes, sir.
We did not go out for a formal bid on that, so.
We don't have any.
Do we need to?
I don't know.
I mean, it's kind of a, I mean, we could still, I guess.
I don't know. I just wanted to point that out. They're calling it a bid, but we didn't go out,
It wasn't a formal bid. It was just a verbal.
I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Wasn't part of it.
And do we even need a motion for this right now? You do?
Well, we're not, we would have to do a contract with the builder, or if we picked a builder, and that's when we would need a vote.
Yeah.
But as of right now, I think we just need to give them direction to either continue working on it, getting pricing and bringing it back for a formal, or if they wanted to, you know, walk away from it and let them buy the building with the property. So my suggestion is we just give them the direction. You even though you put out the motion, we're actually just trying to give them direction so they can keep moving forward.
Okay, I'm good with that.
So
you're talking about them, you're giving them direction to pour footers.
well, they need to get bids on,
Well, this is work they're doing.
okay?
How soon?
On the concrete and all of that. What do you think, Kristen?
Well, you're putting together a total project that hits the formal bid threshold in the policy.
Right.
So I think we should always follow policy. You know, that's going to be my answer, but I don't want to hold up progress either. But did everybody that wanted to bid moving that building have an opportunity? I don't know. I can't say that.
Right. I think the question I was wondering is, and what I was asking is, should we put the cost of the concrete and foundation in with the bid, or two separate, one just for concrete cost, the material cost, since we're doing the work internally, and do a bid for material cost on the
If we're doing
foundation.
the concrete work ourselves, there's no sense in going out for a bid on concrete.
Okay, so we just need a formal bid on the building itself
Well,
moving.
that's,
And I think, well, I'm fine with that. I think we'd be okay with doing, formalizing that bid. It's just, I just trying to get direction so we can give it to them.
right. No, and that's what I'm saying, but I don't think there's any need to add the concrete if we were
Okay.
planning on the city doing the work. Is that what you had anticipated? Or were you wanting to go out for an outside source on that concrete?
We need to get grants, less companies require more of the foundation. So
Right. So I don't think, yeah.
We'll just use our pricing contract for that we have. Okay.
And Craig, I believe you reached out to multiple people.
I actually got 3 written bids when, that's why I knew that this was the cheapest one through Southeast Colorado Builders. And it was just a verbal. We just asked them because at the time we didn't own the property and we were just looking.
Trying to get ideas.
So it was a solicitation to get an idea of what direction we should go.
Right.
So we're saying go ahead with the concrete work and then proceed with policy for the rest.
I would feel better on something like that. This has been a very public product.
What's our timeline?
Well, in talking with the individual today, they are, we're working on the contract. We're trying to get all that worked out. We're probably looking at 3 or 4 months anyhow, before we actually close everything on the property sale. They were requesting the surveys be done and the geotechnical surveys to be done. They were contacting those today to get the orders placed. So, I mean, they're moving forward. Time-wise, I don't see anything happening to finalize it to where we need to have it completed and moved for another 3 to 4 months. So we have time to go out for bid.
So go out to bid to have the building dismantled and re-put up, but go ahead and proceed forward with getting things put together for the footing foundation. So
Finding a
that it's ready to
location.
go when we get it.
Yeah.
I agree.
Are we good with that?
Sounds good.
Okay, and we got the money?
We have a funding source that we have been discussing, yes.
So one of the things that we had discussed as far as the funding, people are asking, or, council's asking, where are we going to pay for this at? And part of it is we have our mini mart, the sale for the mini mart, which we have a letter of intent on. We do have the letter of intent. When that closed, we'll have $55,000 off of that sale. That was off of an investment property that would go back into an investment property fund. So that would be into that balance. So we would have up to $55,000 that we could utilize on investment property or for the concrete to do this work. So we're trying to utilize the investment properties and any income that we receive off the investment properties as part of this deal. So it's all kind of related is what we're trying to do to show where the money was coming from. So we're all good?
Okay, so do we have a motion
No.
with direction? No motion. Thank
No
you.
motion, we're just giving direction. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, any last questions before we move on? All right, seeing none, we will go to the next item, approve agreement to provide on-call building plan review and construction inspection services with the town of Springfield. Craig?
This says we took a couple of old agreements that we currently had with the town of Springfield. They took it down there. They approached us to be involved with their cobblestone hotel. They didn't feel like they had the technical expertise or the people to be able to do the necessary inspections, plan review, and things to get their hotel built. So they reached out to us, put this together using some of what we currently had in place. I believe Lance has looked at it, and then here it is.
Did Tim Shupchik get a hold of you from Cobblestone?
I have talked with, I've never talked with Tim, but I have talked to his main guy that is running the construction multiple times. And I have their supervisor that's on site down there.
Okay. So basically, we're offering building inspection services for Springfield because their building inspector didn't feel comfortable doing the inspection since it's a big project. Is that safe to say?
Very safe to say.
Okay.
I think his expertise is in residential, period.
Not commercial.
Plus, he is very busy doing his own projects in the residential and did not want to get involved with the commercial aspect of it.
And we would just charge the same fees that we charge in Lamar?
We took the rates and fees schedule right out of our 2021 and put it in place in the agreements. Okay. I believe it's in 2.0.
Okay. Have Lance reviewed this?
Yeah.
I think you guys helped write it, didn't you, originally through Springfield or no?
Yeah, I don't have any issues with it.
Okay.
The bottom 2.0 won't be a part of that contract once you guys sign it. So we've already had the discussion with Springfield. They don't have any issues with that not being included on there.
Thanks.
Under the signature line.
The fees, alternative language, we'll take that out. Okay. Okay, what is the council's pleasure?
Greg, you don't have any problems with the time commitments that it may require?
Good question. The way that the MOU was written was that Lamar comes first and they have to come second. I really don't know what I'm going to get into yet. They delivered plans for me to review, which I have not done yet because I wanted to get approval first. So, and I think that's what drove the Tim Shepard call and those kind of things. Supposedly they wanted their contractor to start today. And so in my discussions with them, I said, I'm not getting involved. If you guys are starting, we haven't done anything yet. So you're kind of on your own. So they've put it off for another week. So Manuel, I really don't know what it's going to take until I kind of look at the plans or whatever.
We do have in the contract that Lamar comes first. So.
If that is correct, we do.
Okay. Making sure I understood that.
It's going to be basically the same as ours, right?
That will be a benefit for us.
Yeah.
Because it will be, it's an identical boilerplate cookie cutter. We have an extra floor. They only have 2 floors, but they kind of use the same format. So it'll be it'll actually help us. We'll make the mistakes down there.
I move we approve it and allow the mayor to stay.
Yes, sir.
It says it's $65 per hour for the services. Will that include your drive time to the site and then back to Lamar, Colorado?
Well, I think in the fee schedule, Joe, that there's some areas that are laid out where there's a 2-hour minimum. So, yes, from the time I leave to the time I get back will be billable hours. That's the way I understood it.
Thank you.
Well,
okay. Did we have a motion?
Yep. Move to approve it and allow the mayor to sign.
So we have a motion and a second to approve it and allow the mayor to sign. Any final questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Unanimous in favor of?
Okay, next item on the agenda is the agreement providing an ambulance and emergency medical services in Prowess County, Colorado. Back in January of 2021, we had Prowess County agreed to pay the city $120,000 to provide 12 months of ambulance service. We have been doing that over the last few years. The agreement is going to expire on December the 31st of 2021. So the county and I had talked and we wanted to make sure that we got this in front of them in enough time so they could re-sign it if we so choose. In talking with Kristen, it seems like the 120 seemed to be adequate for what we're
I
needing.
think it is.
So it is moving forward, we could keep the same one if we would like to, as far as the rate is concerned. But I don't think that lowering it would be prudent at this time because, you know, we are doing better. We're just not at a place where we want to lower it.
Yes.
Right. So this was the proposed, this is the exact same contract. We're just putting it in there for a renewal of it.
Lance, everything okay with it?
Oh,
Remember he added.
oh, that's right. You did add verbiage for the Tabor agreement, right?
Yeah, and so it's a year-to-year contract with the option to automatically renew for an additional 1 year unless they provide notice by October
15th, I believe.
by that date.
Okay.
So it's, again, just one of those issues we have to work with Tabor and, you know, that's just one of those agreements in which we had to make that change. There was the county wanted to make this a 2-year deal is my understanding. So we just worked on their behalf together to make that work. So.
And the previous one was 2 years. We just had the out for either side. And do we have that in here as well that we can cancel it?
Like I say, as long as you get that
by the October 15th
deadline, then yeah.
Okay. So either side would have the opportunity to cancel it by October 15th, the auto renewal. Okay. What is the council's pleasure?
I move we approve the agreement and allow the mayor to sign.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the ambulance and emergency services agreement. Any final questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Unanimous in favor of?
Okay. Agenda item number 11. This is somewhat of a discussion and giving direction as well. Last week, we had received a letter similar to the letter that Lamar Light Power had also received from Prowess Medical Center. And the letter is in response to the COVID pandemic, the Colorado Board of Health adopted an emergency rule on August the 30th. This rule requires all licensed healthcare facilities to develop and implement a policy and procedure to ensure 100% of our employees and direct contractors have obtained full COVID-19 vaccination status. As part of the ruling mandate, we are required to verify and report not only on our employees, but on all direct contractors that will or can enter our facility. So, and it goes on from there as far as details. Basically, and you all have a copy of that. Basically, I wanted to bring it back because Lance and I have discussed it. I've discussed it with Jeremy. It was my opinion that we're not a contractor or a direct contractor because a contractor could be out to bid and selected from multiple contractors. We are a service provider who provides a service to them, whether it's the water, sewer, light, or ambulance, because truly our ambulance service, the contract for work is not with PMC, it's with the patient. We bill the patient directly, not PMC. So there's no roundabout way where PMC is paying for the ambulance service. We're billing directly to the patient. So with that said, we're offering a service to the patient to take them to the emergency room, and the emergency room can go from there. Now, it may be a situation where the ambulance employees cannot go into the facility, but we're not required to do that. We can take them to the door and let their staff come and grab them or take care of them from that point. But I wanted, before I asked Lance to work on a letter, and he did give us a letter that we passed out earlier as a response. You do have a copy of that, and I wanted to discuss it with the council before we send this out, because in no means do I want to draw a line in the sand or make this a battle. But at the same token, I want to clarify that we don't, if the council agrees with me, that we don't feel like we're a service. But if you believe we are a contractor, then, of course, we'd have to readdress what we had discussed before, which means that we would need to require our employees to be vaccinated. That was something that the council loudly expressed their disinterest in, so I was trying to continue with that. So I'll open it up for discussion. Anybody like to speak on that?
So, I agree with what you said. Totally agree. I just wanted to point out that PMC is asking for employees' names, whether they're vaccinated or not vaccinated, a copy of their vaccination, or a copy of why their exemption. I don't think that's PMC's business. And just from the general consensus of the community, I believe PMC is just, I don't know what their thought process is over there. They've lost a lot of employees. They're sending this out to contractors, to city. I just to let you guys know, I don't agree with what PMC is doing right now.
Ralphie, I have to agree with Ralphie on what he said there. What they're asking for with the employees' names, and they're wanting to know the status of every individual. I kind of disagree with that. I don't believe it's up to them to know at this point. And I've also heard discussions where it gets into the HIPAA part of it, where asking such questions, because now we're causing divisions of vaccinations and unvaccinated individuals. So I tend to agree with Ralphie on that. I don't feel it's anything that they need to start asking the city of or any employee.
Well, I had spoke to one of the board members, and in that discussion, it was, his comment was that they're trying to abide by the rules that the Colorado Board of Health are directing them with. So I understand that. But at the same token, this would be our stance. We would respond with our stance, and they could submit it to the Colorado Board of Health. And if the Colorado Board of Health disagrees, then they can come back and let us know. I don't think it needs to be an issue of us against PMC. We're just giving our opinion on that we're not a contractor. We're just a service provider. And,
I don't think it hinders their compliance that they have to fall under.
Right.
I don't think we hinder it in any way.
Anne Marie?
Just reading through the letter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think they're using contractor, and we clearly agree that we're not a contractor.
I don't think Light and Power would be a contractor either. They're a service provider.
Right.
Well, I was also curious on if you want to present this to LUP to see if they would be wanting to sign on to this. Someone who also received that same letter.
As a joint?
Yeah.
We could. What did you think on the letter? You said you were reading through it so far.
My editing mode comes in and I have a couple minor corrections, but I think it's sound.
I mentioned that it was a draft.
But the content is sound. Okay. And it's following that direction of the service provider. So that's what we're trying to do, is just clarify our stance. And I wanted to make sure that the whole council was in unison with that stance, so we're not questioning it.
Kirk, can I get a copy of that letter, please?
Yes, we can get that email to you.
Thank you.
Jerry?
Thank you. I wondered if I was chopped liver.
You chopped liver.
I agree with everybody else. I don't think PMC should do this to our employees because it's none of their business as to who's been vaccinated and who isn't. So I stand behind what we all decide.
Okay. Last but not least, Oscar. Well, I guess I haven't asked Manuel either.
No, I said, I don't think it in any way hinders their need to have their compliance. I don't think they would fall out of compliance in any way with what our ambulance service provides.
Okay. Oscar?
I didn't edit the letter, but I think it's all right with me.
All right. It sounds like we're in unison as far as the stance that we're taking. And we'll just give them direction to proceed. Do we want to do that in conjunction with Lamar Light and Power if they would like to?
Yes,
Yeah, I think so.
definitely.
Okay. All right. Okay. Did you need anything else, Lance, or was that good enough?
I'll make the appropriate changes to it.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay. Last but not least is we have an executive session to discuss personal matter CRS 24-6-402, parentheses 4, parentheses F, regarding the treasurer's annual evaluation. So with that said, we just need to do a motion to move in. Oh, did we have any miscellaneous before we move into the executive session? Any miscellaneous items? Okay, seeing none.
Make a motion, move we executive session.
Second.
Okay, we are going to move into executive session and there are no decisions to be made after the executive session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Oscar. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much for joining us and we will see you at the next meeting. Thank
Yeah, I'll
you.
see you next Monday.
Sounds good. Thank you. Are you clear?
You want to read it?
Yes, because we'll need to do the Zoom for the executive session. If we can get this is a draft, so if we can get the formal one, we can let you have that. I'm sure. Yeah, so we can do that. Okay, we'll get you one.
Okay, I'm not gonna have you sign tonight because it's
9 o'clock. Yeah.
We're gonna have an executive session. We have a meeting afterwards.
No worries.
We don't have prices at this point.
Yeah, we don't.
And you said that they're looking for our 60th.
Yeah. Okay, did you let them know on Facebook? Okay, great. Okay, thank you. I hope not long, because we're not going through the.
In here?
No, we'll have it in here.
Well, then I need to move.
We need to tell them that we need to go in here. Just because we have the camera. Yeah.